Plotting, casing, planning, executing. The dynamic and potentially thrilling atmosphere of a heist has become a recent obsession in video games, with franchises like Grand Theft Auto and Battlefield releasing entries that attempt to offer the tension of Jules Dassin's Rafifi and the action of Michael Mann's Heat. While GTA 5 still hasn't given players the opportunity to take huge scores online with friends, Payday has been allowing players to get their grubby hands inside of bank vaults and jewelry cases since 2011. While the first game offered an intriguing premise, the high degree of repetition prevented it from becoming a must-have multiplayer experience. With Payday 2, Overkill Software has aimed to expand the core game with multi-part heists and an expanded upgrade and leveling system. So do these upgrades and changes make Payday 2 a slick success, or is it more of a Dog Day Afternoon style cock-up?
I'm doing it, hold on.
There's a camera.
I'll beat this mission for you guys. I'll beat this mission for you guys.
Gotta use that in the review. Footage there, just staring at you.
I got the thermal drill.
The greasy-fingered foursome from the first game returns. Well, the names are the same, but apparently the original guy named Change retired, and Hoxton from the original game is sitting behind bars. Not that any of this matters much. Payday is not a narrative-driven experience, and simple introductions to the game's heist provide a bit of context for your safe cracking and loot snatching. After a pointless introduction and tutorial area, players are introduced to crime.net, where they can get in touch with contacts about specific jobs. Crime.net is really just a sloppy interface that randomly populates with jobs at various difficulty levels. Players who wish to play a specific mission will have their patience tested, as they watch missions pop up and disappear, and once the desired mission makes an appearance, there's not a guarantee that it will be playable at the desired difficulty. Impatient players can pay a fixer in order to obtain specific contracts, offering an inelegant solution to what never should have been a problem in the first place. Each of the 11 missions starts with a casing phase, where players can scout their targets and establish the best method to take your score down. In this mode, players cannot jump, crouch, interact with objects, or move tools. Also, entering certain areas immediately triggers alarms and starts the heist, and this renders the casing session almost pointless. Payday 2 randomizes its spawns, and even the layouts of buildings can be randomized, relocating mission objectives and adding or subtracting certain obstacles. Often, entering areas that would allow you to see where these items have spawned will automatically trigger alarms. Payday really doesn't emphasize planning or intelligence, instead it focuses on the grind to earn new abilities and upgrades which open up new possibilities to complete levels. It's possible to complete many of the missions entirely unseen, but doing so generally hinges on unlocking specific skills and abilities and knowing what tools are required for a stealth run in a certain mission. By the time you're able to complete most of the missions unseen, you'll have already played them guns blazing a dozen times, killing any sense of reward being sneaky might have provided. Also frustrating are random elements that ruin an otherwise perfect stealth run. It's possible to knock guards out, and upon doing so, you're given the opportunity to address other guards in the area and assure them that nothing suspicious has occurred. Sometimes these attempts to assuage your foes fail, causing alarms to go off and frustration to occur. Also, cameras sometimes spawn behind doors that need to be lockpicked, and making the mistake of opening one of these doors and being spotted by a camera will also ruin a stealth run. Stealth is incentivized, however, with an experience multiplier granted upon completing the following mission. Once your master plan to get in without being detected goes up in smoke and the alarms start ringing, repetition and frustration set in, as Payday's online gameplay transforms from heist game to horde mode. Police flood in during assault waves as if the entire population of Virginia is on call to prevent armed robberies. Wave after wave of cops converge upon your position, and their spawns are random. Level designs allow cops to drop onto rooftops and smash through skylights, making it difficult to find a decent area to hold out and defend sometimes, much less tackle any of the game's objectives. Payday 2 requires such an absurd number of enemies because each member of law enforcement you face seems to be a Mississippi public school dropout. Nothing in Payday 2 is more impressive than the fact that it makes the AI and lemmings look like a bunch of MIT PhD students. Officers will perform combat rolls into gunfire, face away from the action, and march single fire into doorways, where they can be greeted by a half dozen full metal jacket rounds to the face. There are a few variations of law enforcement that your crooks will clash with. Patrol officers with pistols eventually give way to armored SWAT team members, and ultimately irritating enemies with riot shields and bomb disposal armor show up to trade shots with your team of no-good swindlers.
Make sure you keep the power up.
Oh my god.
Like, why is the power just shutting off all the time?
Because the cop...
But why is it only the computer? Why are all the lights still on in the building every time?
Because this game is idiot. It's just a bullshit excuse for you to repeat the same shit over and over and over. Why do these assholes buy drills at like fucking the...
Yeah, the drills just like jam every 2 seconds.
Ah, my drill broke!
Costs $10 billion for a drill that doesn't jam.
When they know they're robbing a vault, why don't they bring the appropriate drill?
Seems like the deal wasn't good.
If massacring a state population's worth of special needs police officers wasn't fatiguing enough, the criminals whose shoes you stroll in for the duration of Payday 2 happen to make a litany of idiotic choices of their own. The most egregious of which is the fact that they seem to purchase their equipment from a local dollar store. If you were to consider making a career out of breaking into vaults and safes, wouldn't it behoove you to purchase a drill that doesn't break down every 30 seconds? Every last mission in Payday devolves into the same banal ritual of making your way to an objective and having to defend it for several minutes while some force interferes with its ability to function properly. And all of this occurs while being swarmed by countless cockroaches masquerading as cops. Whether you're guarding a computer as it's being hacked or transferring data, waiting for an escape vehicle, or waiting for a thermal drill to penetrate a vault door, it all feels the same. Missions that require you to open a dozen locked boxes in order to find your objective will have you pounding your face against your keyboard, begging for something to put you out of your misery. It all makes some of the game's errors in logic hard to ignore. Why drill the lock out of a door when there are glass windows beside it? Why hack a computer when you can just steal the damn thing and leave the premises? This sort of progression does little to give players a sense of accomplishment, since it makes every heist feel like a lecture on Murphy's Law and an exercise in incompetence. Many of these issues are remedied later in the game, as your character earns more skills and abilities, but by that point most players will have moved on. The skill trees in Payday 2 are expanded from the first, granting players group buffs, additional equipment, and special bonuses. The money you score from your criminal exploits can be used to purchase weapons and attachments, and it all comes together like a master's thesis on how leveling and upgrades can ruin online first-person shooter design. After each mission, your score is divided up between spending cash and an offshore account, at a rate that's worse than Belgian taxation. The average heist will give players between $40,000 and $60,000, and most attachments for your weapons cost over $100,000. Leveling up gives players skill points, and acquiring new skills requires a combination of cash and points. All of this makes starting a laborious grind for cash and XP. If that wasn't bad enough, weapon attachments, masks, color schemes, and patterns are all unlocked randomly at the end of each mission, giving players no real way to work toward obtaining a specific attachment or upgrade. This all comes together to ensure the Payday 2 community is completely intolerant of low-level players, since they don't have the equipment and skill necessary to complete levels at a difficulty that is satisfying for veteran players. If you're new to Payday, find some friends who play, or beg on message boards for someone to power level your character. It's possible to play with AI, but they're utterly worthless. They don't pick up loot, and they don't carry any special tools. Amidst these miserable design choices and shortcomings are some flashes of brilliance, however. Some missions take place over multiple days, and your performance on one day can affect the proceedings on a following day. Some missions have intriguing concepts, even if they all proceed in the same way. Framing politicians, cooking meth, and rigging voting machines are some of Payday 2's more inventive ideas. Some missions allow one player to hop between security cameras in order to spot enemies for their teammates, which provides a brilliant co-op mechanic. Payday 2's focus on risk-reward is also enticing. Missions provide plenty of opportunities to steal far more than what your objective calls for, but doing so puts the entire operation at risk. It's a shame that these elements are buried under so many design blunders. Presentation is also a sore spot, with plenty of hideous textures and some areas that are recycled in certain missions. The soundtrack is best described as the sound of a dial-up modem on meth. It's mostly electronic and has an obnoxious, exhausting tempo that leaves your head feeling like it's on the verge of exploding.
It's cantina
not
music.
the type of music you would hear in any club.
Amazing music.
It's like a Mario game or something.
In the intro to Michael Mann's 1981 film Thief, James Caan quietly drills into a safe while his spotter monitors police scanners and a getaway driver patiently waits the crew to snatch the goods. It's night, and the moonlight highlights the silhouettes of wrought iron fire escapes that climb the sides of 2 brick buildings in an alleyway, and the neon lights of Chicago are reflected by the rain-soaked streets. It oozes style and defines cool, setting the stage for man's heist film to end all heist films, Heat. Payday 2 is exactly the opposite of that. It's the Three Stooges with drills and guns bumbling their way through cops and locks to steal the average McDonald's worker's annual salary before pissing off to their decrepit safe house where they can admire their obnoxious mask collections. The horrendous leveling and upgrade system combined with the awful AI and thoughtless design squander what should be a winning game concept. Those who want the satisfaction of planning and executing the perfect heist with a few buddies online will have to keep looking, because the only Payday worth having contains peanuts and comes in a white plastic wrapper.